Salisbury Center, we are ready for our next fight. Making his way to the cage and fighting out of the red corner, it's Collin Crawford.
All right, Collin Crawford, 6 foot, 195. This is the super middleweight division, 195. We started talking about the weight classes earlier with the catch weight and the cruiserweights, but this is in that middle part that I think that you were talking about.
Yeah, I love this. I really do. So, in my perfect world, that 155 pound to 170 pound jump is just too much, especially because that's where the majority of all competitors are. That's really like the average size human, right? So if you went from 155 to 170 and switched that to 155 to 165, 165 to 175, then you can have 185 to 195, 205, or even go 185 to 100 cruiserweight if you don't want to add too many more weight classes. But I think there's an important distinction that you need more opportunities for where there's the most fighters.
Gotcha.
So often I see guys who are in-betweeners, I could probably make 65, and there's other guys who could probably just barely make 70, that'd be better off at 75. There's limitations, and those 5 pounds, 10 pounds make a really big difference when you're already cutting so much weight.
All right, Crawford comes to us out of Raleigh, North Carolina. He'll be fighting out of Gracie Raleigh. He's number 8 in the light heavyweight in South Carolina. So this is not his first time in the cage. So he came down a little bit so he could and take this fight. So normally he's a couple of weight classes up, but he made his way down just a little bit so he could take this fight all the way up from Raleigh, North Carolina. Of course, he's a teammate of Matt Gordon, who just fought here that we just saw. Get him in here in the cage. Perfect. All right, let's throw it down to Chris. Second introduction for bout number 5.
And his opponent, making his way to the cage and fighting out of the blue corner, it's William Roszell.
All right, William Roszell, 6'4". This is a little different in height here, about 4 inches. We've seen this not make a huge difference in MMA. He's 193, 34 years of age, out of the lab. We've seen the lab a ton of times, coming to us live from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Look, TCB that we called last month.
Yeah.
The height difference makes a difference with the reach.
Yep.
MMA, I don't think it does.
Well, and I think you're not wrong for saying that, although I would tell you that somebody who's got good control of range and with a really good jab, with these MMA gloves, they could do a lot of damage and they could really change the nature of the fight. Obviously, we're talking about a grappling striking matchup. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Sure, well,
the smaller grappler
they shoot in there, they shoot in there to get him on the ground. TCB, you don't have that choice.
Absolutely, but there are times where you're going to have a tall guy who's got tremendous grappling, and now all of a sudden it kind of reverts back to that kickboxing match. So the height discrepancy, to your point, doesn't make as big of a deal in MMA because there are so many different variables that can occur. However, when it comes down to it, fighter for fighter, if you're able to mitigate some of the advantages a smaller guy would have, like working in the dirty boxing, in the clinch, avoiding the ground game, all of a sudden you really quickly can have that strong advantage with a much smaller glove.
This is William Roszell's first fight here. Now, he was supposed to fight in CageZilla 67, but his opponent had backed out, so he really didn't have a chance to fight. But the lab has 3 other fighters here tonight, and this is one of those clubs and gyms that travels very, very well coming up from Fredericksburg. Not too far. It's about an hour trip compared to Raleigh, North Carolina, or New Mexico, or New York, where some of these other guys come from. But listen, we've seen guys come out of the lab before, and he's one of 3 tonight, and he has his debut. Was supposed to be at 67, now it's in 68. Chris Fuller, let's get the official announcements, or excuse me, introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bout is scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds in the CageZilla super middleweight division. Starting out, fighting out of the red corner, standing 6 foot tall and weighing in at 195 pounds, fighting out of Gracie of Raleigh, North Carolina, with a record of 1 win and no defeats, it's Collin Crawford!
Crawford is ranked number 8 in the light heavyweight division in South Carolina out of Gracie.
His opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, standing 6'4" and weighing in at 193 pounds, fighting out of the lab with making his CageZilla debut, it's William Roszell!
Roszell, 6'4", 34 years of age, out of the lab in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this bout is scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds, and your referee is Michael Dolman.
All right, Michael Dolman hops in and takes over the reins here doing the referee job. Michael Dolman's so cool, doesn't even have to tie his shoes there, CD, as we get the seconds out, and he'll be ready to rock and roll here. This is scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds as Michael checks with the referee, or excuse me, the judges on the side of the cage. He checks with the fighters, and here they go, touching gloves right on top of the CageZilla logo. Roszell comes out hard, but right to the left. Yeah, he just walked right into a couple.
Now, it's worth noting, Roszell has 3 unsanctioned fights to his name, so while it is his official debut, he does have some experience, although Collin Crawford looked pretty good there. As Roszell really ran forward, he landed a couple good strikes, and now he's on the clinch where he wants to be.
There's a couple of taller guys, too. We don't usually see these guys at this height fighting each other, so you start looking at them, normally we see guys with their heads not anywhere near the top of the cage. It's like, this guy's hitting his head on the top of the cage. Yeah, Collin Crawford is pushed back up and hitting, and now when Roszell stands up there, he's 4 inches taller.
And I do like how Roszell is really engaged in an offensive clinch here. I think Crawford's just got to work a little bit harder to get those underhooks and then start to work his way off of the cage.
Couple of knees from Roszell. Roszell will be in the gray trunks. He has the black gloves with the blue tape. Crawford has the red shorts, kind of maroonish, and he'll have black gloves with red tape. He's fighting out of the red corner from Raleigh, North Carolina. Both fighters still pushed up against the cage, but Roszell is taking charge of this.
Crawford's got to get rid of that whizzer and get an underhook and start to push away. Oh, he uses it to throw. That was perfect. That was his opportunity to get off the cage, though, here, as Roszell, keeps driving forward.
Roszell gave him a couple of shots, but then Crawford came back. Oh, another good right. 2 of them.
Beautiful work there.
2 of them on the inside.
And now he's working around. He almost actually could have gotten a back take there, but Roszell held onto that underhook just enough.
Crawford was away from the cage and could have pulled him out and maybe broke clinch there.
And this is pretty exhausting because the clinch is an interesting position. You're using a lot of muscles and strength to hold somebody in place, but then at the same time, you need to be fluid enough to just be able to throw some strikes at the same time as well. So, I always found it to be incredibly tiring, especially when you have somebody pushing you up against the cage.
Both a couple of tall fighters for the cage here. Ooh, good knee. And a good right hand from Roszell. Another good right hand. Crawford trying to push him back, give him some knees.
Big elbow again.
I'm going to tell you, the pressure that Roszell is putting on Crawford is really putting him back a little bit. But Crawford has responded. I think he's responded great.
He is, but he is getting tired. And I'll also tell you, when you start throwing kicks at that range, it usually tells me that you're tired and you're just trying to throw something to create space. Because the instinct is a kick is going to create space, but the reality is that it allows them to drive forward because you only have 1 foot underneath you as they're pushing forward.
Oh, good right. Oh, a good left hand from Roszell, followed by a right hand from Crawford.
Yeah, Roszell's doing a really good job here. Crawford's got to get out of the way. And there's his opportunity, but now he just kind of is hanging out there.
And he's still hanging out. Oh, good left hand from Roszell. I mean, a squared up left hand right to the right side of the face of Crawford. With about 10 seconds left to go in round 1, they're just throwing haymakers again.
Crawford landed some good combinations. Now he's taking the center of the cage. He's got to be careful as he backs up, though, right? He doesn't want to end up in that same position. Very tiring, but man, that forward pressure from Roszell was wild.
And both fighters totally exhausted after round 1. This is a marathon, boys. Not a sprint.
You can't blame them, right? Because that's just that type of action really breeds that intensity of just it's constant high pressure work, and you almost like it draws you in. If it's not your style and you're not that style of fighter, sometimes it's really difficult to prevent that from happening because you have somebody just ripping you to the body, just kind of making this fight ugly. And you land an elbow and you feel it. And you're like, all right, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stay here. But the next thing you know, you're out of shape because you're out of breath. Because you don't typically train this. Right. Whereas this is Roszell's bread and butter. He's ready to go here all day.
Crawford, it looks like he has a little blood around the corners of his mouth, like he got caught. Doesn't look like Roszell has any problems. They're just checking him out, making sure. Both fighters, it almost looked like Roszell was going to sit down, but then he noticed Crawford didn't sit down. So you weren't going to outdo me. So the stool was in there. But listen, the stool is only a foot and a half off the ground. Roszell is 6'4". If you're going to sit me down, it's going to be hard to get back up.
Right, they might as well sit on top of the cage at that point.
Here we go, round 2 as they touch. Oh, it's a fake touch glove.
Oh, a big one too, though. That landed from Crawford. And now Crawford's starting to circle out. Good corner work, good adjustments.
Not a fan of the touch gloves and then throw a blow while you're still touching gloves.
But, I'll tell you, I don't really think Roszell had any intention of touching gloves. I think he was just driving forward. So as Crawford put his hand out, Roszell was kind of just punching in.
Yeah.
Although I agree with you. I don't like it at all. I'm not quite sure that it was...
It almost looked like that, but you're right. Now we're back into the same position again as Roszell is putting the pressure on Crawford. I wish Crawford would push off of this and go stand in the middle and throw blows because I think he could take him.
Well, to your point, I completely agree. I think as he circles out here, just take the center of the cage, and when Roszell drives into you, you have to kind of stand your ground, right? You got to throw your punches and then angle off, but basically never let yourself back straight up. as a coach, something I always tell the guys is get in the center of the cage and assume you get 3 steps back, and then you have to pivot off, because if you don't, your back is going to be
in the cheese grater.
Right? Exactly.
And you don't want to be in the cheese grater. Crawford has got his back against the cheese grater this whole first round, and now started off the second round this way after a couple of good shots.
And, I'm going to tell you, I think Crawford has landed the harder strikes. I think he's landed the more impactful blows. But if I'm a judge, it's hard for me to score this against William Roszell, because he's the one driving forward in the clinch, constantly throwing action.
And just putting that pressure on him.
Oh, Crawford's pulling down for a guillotine. Now he's got arm in. It is tight. Roszell let his body go a little bit low, but I can't quite tell.
I don't think he's got it. No, he's going to pull out.
Too much space
that leverage from a 6'4" Roszell pulled him out, and now Crawford's in a bad spot.
Yeah, Crawford's tired here.
He's really exhausted.
He's got his butterfly hooks in, but he's got to start to move away here. And now he's got to get up.
Oh, good up kick. Another good up kick.
Now, Michael Dolman's one of the best referees in the business, so I think that as Roszell took the hit, he was actually up on his feet. But you got to be careful throwing up kicks to a grounded opponent, even when they're on top of you. You could throw it to the body, but you can't quite throw those to the head. It did look like Roszell was standing up. Now he's got that gift wrap position where his left arm is on the back of Crawford's neck, but it's holding Crawford's right hand. This is going to make it very difficult for Crawford to get out of there. And now he's throwing big knees and big shots here.
Crawford's going to try to make a move to get away from this with about 30 seconds left to go in round number 2. Roszell is just hammering him down with elbow shots.
Crawford made a good adjustment there. He's got to get up. He can't just keep throwing up kicks.
If he could have scrambled, I think he could scramble and get up. I think Roszell's tired, yeah.
15 seconds left.
Here, Crawford's too tired to stand up.
Now, I actually think Michael Dolman can stop them here and stand him up.
10 seconds. Let's see if he does this or not. He can spin it.
Oh, big up kick.
Good shot. You're going to fight from your back. That's a good spot to do it right there. Wow. Crawford really tired.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because as tired as he is, he's been on the receiving end of a lot of this forward pressure. It's really going to come down to, can he now be the one to throw the harder shots, hold his ground, and prevent himself from backing up? He really has to back up Roszell, or at the least meet him in the middle. Because if you keep letting somebody back you up and push you up against the cage, it's just going to be a repeat of what's happening.
Again, Roszell is sat down, but Crawford choosing not to sit down, talking to his seconds. Something I'm sure that they discuss ahead of time.
Yeah, but there's something to that, right? Everybody has their own styles.
Sure. Let me tell you, I want a love seat. I want to lay down.
A lazy boy, yeah. A recliner.
Let me tell you what I like. I don't want a stool. I want you to make me comfortable.
And now this is the third and final round here. And I'm interested to see what adjustments Crawford made. He started in the beginning of the second round making good adjustments, but then obviously Roszell just kind of drove past it.
All right, so Roszell, it looks like he's very glary-eyed. His nose looks like he got popped, maybe a broken nose for Roszell, and he's trying to guard that. Now here comes to the left, just pushing him.
Non-stop forward pressure.
See if we can't get a good shot of that. Chris Fuller brought that to my attention as he was down there. He could see that the nose looks like he's probably on the wrong side of the face of Roszell.
There's some good work, though. There's some good corner work from Collin Crawford there as he works to get that tie clinch and circle around. But, man, dude, Roszell is just non-stop.
Yeah, just putting the pressure on. I'm wondering what kick or shot. Ooh, good knee from Crawford.
Oh, that hurt him.
That did hurt him.
And good pressure
that
there.
That did hurt him. His face is crunched up. He got a shot right to the midsection with that knee.
See, if you're Crawford here, get out. Just let go and start putting it on.
Yes, especially if he's got a nose issue.
And this is what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes you just fall into this game plan where it's like it's all you know at this point. The entire fight has been here with your back against the cage. You've survived. You've landed harder shots. And, he might not realize he's losing because you get comfortable there knowing, like, I could land here. I'm fine here.
Right.
But you're losing the fight. So in those moments where you have those successes, right, like there, he just landed a good shot, or before where he landed the knee to the body and he was now on the outside, you want to break and start landing those shots, really putting on him to put yourself in that position where now you're holding him to the cage. Now his back is against it, like right there.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, CD, and I watched Rocky 3 today, so I'm talking about, like, spin him out. What are you talking about? I saw him. Clubber Lang got pushed around. Rocky took him. 1-2, bang. Spin him around, put him in the corner.
An amazing documentary.
You have no idea.
Very educational.
It was how you know. It's how fight game is real.
Well, right here, it's tough. You know, again, I got to see something out of Crawford. You're allowing this fight to get away from you, and you got a minute left here, just over a minute. And
he has to do something.
You got to do something.
Yeah, Crawford has to spin out. He has to do something and start putting some pressure on. If Roszell is hurt, right there, that left hand, start putting it on his nose. Just touch his nose. If it's broken, you'll know about it.
Well, and the other thing I'll tell you, too, that's interesting is that Crawford has lifted up his left leg. You'll see at times he's kind of creating space and using that leg as a shield. But Roszell has good, beautiful. But Roszell has no intention of taking him down. He wants to fight in the clinch. He's a clinch fighter, and I'm going to tell you, like, Roszell is really good at it. He's good at entering the clinch. He's good at keeping you there, and he's good at putting you on the back pedal. Oh, a big elbow, though.
And Crawford just looked up at the clock, so he knows how much time he has left. His seconds are screaming at him. They're trying to hit him to hustle because, man, right now Roszell is probably winning this fight.
Man, and these are like, he lands hard shots.
Yeah, when he hits, he pops him. He just needs to spin out and start doing some work.
Yeah, I mean, I would even tell you, take your chest, your forehead, drive it into his chest, and just start ripping.
Oh, big elbows. Right hand.
Now, he threw an uppercut before that, which actually...
another one! Let's see if Crawford can take him out in 10 seconds. Start throwing him, Crawford.
These are hurting Roszell, but Roszell is so gritty, man. Look at that.
Look how he just stood in there and just took him. Wow, good fight.
I'll tell you what, man. Roszell really
good fight.
Good clinch work. I mean, that was fantastic.
Listen, that last little right hand and elbow knocked the mouth guard out of Roszell, and he still stood in there at 6'4" with his debut fight here and just hammered away.
What an interesting fight that was. I'll tell you, that is not something that Crawford's probably used to experiencing. And for a guy who, okay, obviously he's fought a couple times unsanctioned, but man, oh man, Roszell, great work, really good forward pressure, and high-level clinch work. A lot of times, you can use the clinch offensively, especially up against the cage, to take a striker's fight away from them. You don't let them get the space to land strikes. And you could also do it to a grappler. You don't let them take you down. You don't let them use their jiu-jitsu. And you keep them in this intermediary area where you're landing a lot of hard, small shots. You're keeping good pressure. You're not taking too much damage, although towards the end there, he started getting caught. And you effectively are able to win the fight because you're driving and steering what's happening.
Both fighters, you know what, the sportsmanship here, they come over, they're talking about what happened in the fight, both guys smiling. This is hard sometimes for guys who fight and do this as a sport, because you would never do this if you were somewhere else and you fought somebody like this.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm not your friend anymore. Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, hats off to them. Those guys over there at the lab, they know how to win, and they know they're very good at what they do, and I think that was a great fight.
All right, Michael Dolman's calling for both fighters here. We'll get Collin Crawford over to the middle. Chris has the results, so we'll throw it down to Chris Fuller. We'll get the official results here from bout number 5. Chris?
Salisbury Center, after 3 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Judge 1 scores about 30-26. Judge 2 scores about 29-28, and Judge 3 scores about 29-28, all in favor of your winner. By unanimous decision, out of the middle corner, it's William Arundel.
Just the constant pressure, CD. I don't think it was anything spectacular. I thought, like you talked about, the harder shots were thrown by Collin Crawford. He caught him with the elbows. Of course, the nose on Roszell, but the constant pressure, it looked like he was winning the fight.